So I sneak in and I look on the counter and I see there's a watch. I was like, oh, that's my watch. I don't know why. I decided to pick it up. I picked that watch up and that watch fell into pieces. Like about 7 different pieces.
Hey guys, welcome to Closet Margaritas. I'm Cassie.
I'm Sean.
And today we have a really interesting topic of discussion today. What is it, Seancito?
Codependency.
Yep.
I'm going to hit you with some definitions and a few facts, okay?
Okay.
All right. So according to Webster's dictionary definition of codependency, it is characterized by excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner, typically one who requires support on account of an illness or addiction. You go with her all the time because you're a little codependent.
Okay.
So they're saying that the derivative might be some kind of illness or an addiction.
Maybe it's you're lovesick. I guess we'll talk about that here soon enough.
Yeah. So 5 core symptoms of codependency: low self-esteem, people-pleasing, difficulty setting boundaries, caretaking, and just overall dependency.
People pleasing is the one that kind of stands out a lot to me.
Okay.
So I know that I have felt codependent, especially on you in my past and present. And I am not going to say that I entirely feel like it's something bad. I am codependent on you when it comes to certain things, as far as like emotional things, like emotional support. I'm codependent on you when it comes to, I don't know, doing things around the house, like all hanging out. I'm so codependent on you that I feel like I'd rather be doing that with you than anyone else. But I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think it's interesting how codependency has become like this bad word. And I think that maybe we should unpack if we feel like it's bad or not. I mean, it sounds like from what you said, you don't think it's bad.
Well, I'm not saying it's not bad.
Okay.
But the type of codependency I have when it comes to you, I don't see a problem with it because I feel like I have a healthy balance between me being codependent on you and me depending on myself.
You sound like a weed head telling a crackhead that they're wrong. Like, all I do is smoke weed all the time, but you smoke crack.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, because according to Webster's dictionary, it says it's stemming from an illness or addiction.
I'm not sick or addicted.
Well, but think about it. Like, a lot of times when we define addiction, it's usually in a negative light. Even if you say you're addicted to success, that usually means at the cost of others. You're addicted to drugs, that's usually the cost of your well-being. You know what I mean? So I have my own feeling about what codependency is. I've been called codependent before. And I will tell you, I don't think there's anything wrong with being codependent.
Just across the board.
There's nothing wrong at all. And the reason why I think that is because I think that even if you're addicted to someone, I think that it's a personal decision on whether or not you want to be codependent and the level of codependency you want to have.
But you're seeing it from the person who is codependent, from their point of view. What about the person who's receiving that?
Yeah. It could be annoying. And it would be interesting if you're the person saying you're codependent and that person pulled back and you're so accustomed to them being, because if you think about it, doting is usually an attribute of codependency. I'm always like, oh, baby le pew, right? But in looking at that example, he was pretty much codependent on that cat, right? Like that was his whole life. We never even seen him talk to nobody else.
No one else existed in his world.
Nobody else existed.
Well, but here's the thing. I feel like there are, healthy ways of being codependent and very unhealthy ways. When it gets to the point where you are expecting your partner to just focus solely on you and your needs and wants, or getting upset if they choose to go, by themselves or hang out with family or friends or, anything like that. Yeah, that's when it gets really hairy. And I think it gets to the point where it can be dangerous.
Yeah. But see, I don't call that codependency. I call that controlling. Mm-hmm. But I agree with you. I think a side effect of being too codependent is you become controlling. Mm-hmm. I've been in relationships where I don't know if it was that I was that great of a man, but it was like I couldn't go anywhere.
And it wasn't me, guys.
No. But what's weird about those situations and relationships where they could go out anytime they wanted, mm-hmm. but I couldn't.
But you couldn't.
To the point where, full transparency, I used to be scared to be like, I'm about to have a guy's night.
Yeah.
And I would wait until I have a funny story about codependency.
Okay.
This is a college tale. And,
your college tales.
Yeah. So if you know anything about college tales, they're full of chaos. So anyways, the bros, we're about to go to KU. The AKAs are having a party. And when the AKAs throw a party, it's a tight party at KU. Mm-hmm. Our son will realize that one day. So anyways, Frat was like, yo, we going. Between Kansas State and KU is about $120, and so I was like, okay, I got to plan this just right. The party starts around 9. The bros, we want to step in there just right about 9:30. The music gonna be bumping. We're gonna party walk in. So that means that we need to be on the road by like 7 in case we want to stop and get something to eat. So my codependent partner, I had butterflies in my stomach the entire day. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm going to tell her at 6:48. Mind you, I got to leave at 7, but I'm going to tell her at 6:48. The whole day goes by. One of my frat was like, yo, you told your girl, right? I was like, no, I'm waiting until 6:48. So 6:40.
But why were you waiting until 6:48?
I was scared.
But you were waiting to the very last minute?
Yeah. Because then you can't, I don't even have to see you. Like, I don't even have to see the fact that you don't want me to go anywhere because you're codependent.
Okay.
So 6:48 comes, boom, shoot the text. Back then it was, was it a text? Because I'm that old. How did I tell her?
Did you page her?
I might have emailed her or something.
You better not have emailed.
No, we had cell phones then. I remember now because it was T9. It was like
you sent her a fax.
Yeah, I was like, hey, I was like, bop, 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 beep, beep, beep. So anyway, 6:48 comes. I shoot the text. I already got my clothes, and I leave before she could even get back to the crib. We stayed together. Mm-hmm. We go to Lawrence, and we kick it. Time of our lives. Mm-hmm. And about maybe 1:30 in the morning, we heading back, right? And I'm not thinking anything of it. So I get to the house, and I remember when I got to KU, I was like, man, I forgot my favorite watch. I was like, man, I love that watch. Anyways, I get back to the crib. I sneak in because, when you're with a codependent, you got to sneak in.
With the CD.
Yeah. So I sneak in, and I look on the counter, and I see there's a watch. I was like, oh, that's my watch. I don't know why. I decided to pick it up. Mm-hmm. I picked that watch up, and that watch fell into pieces, like about 7 different pieces. And I thought maybe it was because I was inebriated or it was late, but I was like, that is absolutely amazing that this watch was intact. And I picked it up and it fell apart. Yeah. So the next day I was like, hey, do you know what happened to my watch? Codependent was like, yeah, I know. As soon as you left and as soon as I got back, I threw that watch against the wall.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, but you picked every piece back up and put it back together? She was like, yes. And I knew then I was in a relationship with a codependent person.
Yes, you were.
And so that is my college tale of the day.
There's several.
There are.
I've never been in a situation like that before where it's that codependent, You
sure?
Yeah. Why?
I think so. Codependency is always wanting to be around you, right? Mm-hmm. Remember you worked at the wing spot?
Oh,
that's codependency right there.
Yeah, I did have an ex who just could not stand to be away from me. And so he would just show up everywhere and anywhere I was without him.
Yeah.
I thought back then it was cute. Now looking back at it, I'm like, that was creepy. That was stalkerish right there. Because I would be places, I wouldn't even tell him where I was and he'd show up. So he was following me.
Yeah. And that was before cell phones. So that was amazing.
No, I had cell phones.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But location sharing and stuff like that was on cell
No,
phones?
we didn't have that.
Exactly. So how?
He was following me. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, he had a tail on you.
I mean, but honestly, the way he got me is he was also following me. He saw me somewhere, found out who I was hanging out with, found out like someone who he had to connect through me through someone else.
Yeah.
And that person told them, well, her lunch is this time.
Yeah.
And he showed up to my school. He didn't go to my school.
Yeah.
Showed up to my school with like 24 roses.
Yeah.
And was like, hey, I've been watching you. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
You're codependent. I love that.
And now I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary. I had no idea.
I would say that in the beginning of any relationship, codependency is kind of like a lure.
It's love bombing.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like you feel like, oh my gosh, this person's so into me, and it's so cute until it ain't.
Yeah.
You know, and when it turns into a situation where now, like you said, you're afraid to say something, or you're afraid to be like, okay, well, if I go out, then that means I gotta do something else, or you know, you're trying to barter or whatever. Then that could be a bit annoying.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, getting back to the way I feel about codependency, I think that I have at times lost myself, even in our marriage, and not lost like who I was, but didn't continue to remind myself who I am. And it can come across as a weakness. And there are things that I purposely do, you know, to please myself, to make sure that I'm good, like going to the gym, making sure that I'm curating my goals and dreams and things like that. I think that's a good way to continue to stave off codependency, because let's say like hobbies is a great example. If you find yourself that, oh, okay, before I met my wife or my husband, I used to be huge in the roller derby. All right, so strap up and get out there and knock people down, right? But then your partner was like, I like painting. And he was like, painting is cool. I think that's going to be my hobby.
Yeah.
And then you lose your roller derby credit, right? I think that's a sign that you are maybe creeping into codependency.
Yeah, it's the one of the number one signs is if you stop doing what you love, or it's not that you stop, but maybe you're not as free to do those things because you're in constant worry that, oh, well, I can't do this because I'm gonna be away from so-and-so, or the so-and-so is gonna be mad, or maybe they want to tag along.
Yeah.
You know, but I feel like in unhealthy relationships, that could be a big problem. Because you're not setting boundaries on yourself and what your wants and needs are.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people don't know how to set boundaries because they feel like it's their duty. If they're in a relationship, it's their duty to do those things. Like they don't have a choice.
Yeah. I think thinking about the timeline of codependency, I think that between 0 and 24, being codependent is acceptable. It's accepted. I think about like our kids starting to date, and they are showing huge signs of codependency and controlling. But if you think about it, like when a baby's born and they're a toddler, they're extremely codependent on you, right?
Yeah.
But then even when they go with their friend, they start developing friendships. They're very codependent on that friendship group, right? It molds them. They kind of all become the same little person, right?
Yeah.
And then when you start dating, that's the other form of codependency, like high school, college, right? Something happens around your mid to late 20s where you're like, I gotta find me, right? And so you start to kind of grow apart from friends and boyfriend and girlfriends and everything else. But I think a change happens. Maybe it's when you become closer to the hill. Maybe it's like 60. But if you think about like old couples, they're almost the same person. Mm-hmm. And it's cute.
It is cute.
And they do everything together. And they sometimes dress alike.
Yeah, I was about to say they dress alike and everything, like goals.
Both little wrinkles and everything. That codependency is acceptable again.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of go like, we go this.
What is this for the people who are listening?
Okay, so this is 0 to 23, codependent. You know, you're hand in hand. In your latter wonder years, 25 to like maybe 40, you're trying to find yourself, find your career, find, you know, your swag. And then when you get older, and especially if you have a life partner, I think it becomes back into like, y'all both 3-year-olds. Mm-hmm. Y'all both need each other, right? How do you feel about the timeline?
No, I agree with that, because I feel like a lot of codependency happens initially whenever you don't really know who you are. Mm-hmm. You don't know yourself fully. So you're trying to find your way. Yeah. Okay. But whenever you get older, you know who you are, and you also know who you are with your mate, and y'all naturally, if y'all have a healthy relationship, y'all tend to like the same things. Yeah. You know, you tend to do the same things, and it becomes more of a super deep love and mm-hmm. friendship with one another that who else you gonna call? Most of your friends, let's be honest, most of your friends are gonna be deceased. Oh, or I'm talking about like the old people, you know, like the super seniors. Yeah. I mean, most of the people they used to hang out with are deceased, or they're sick, or they're not as mobile. Mm-hmm. And so if you have, you know, a partner who is still liking the things you like and all this, yeah, you're gonna lean towards them. That's your person for life, literally.
So that's one form of codependency. That's the internal mm-hmm. form, right? There's another form of codependency, and that's the wanting to be needed or wanting to have a job, mm-hmm. and that becomes your codependent. That feeds your codependent spirit, right? Yeah. So I'll give an example. Let's say there's a lady, and the lady has children, and the lady has a husband. The lady does everything for the kids, mm-hmm. almost everything for the husband. So she's like the caretaker and the secretary mm-hmm. and the chef and the cleaning lady. She mm-hmm. does everything, right? Mm-hmm. Some would argue that it's not that she's being done wrong. Some would argue that she's so codependent that she has to have a job. And so she doesn't allow the man to cook some meals. She doesn't allow the man to take the kids here and there. She doesn't allow anybody to clean the house because she wants it cleaned her way. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about, do you think that is a form of codependency? And how do you feel about, and I'm picking on women, but I'm just saying women. How do you feel about that?
Well, there's definitely people who feel that way. And is it a form of codependency? Yes, but in a sense that I am codependent on you to make me feel needed because I don't really know how else to be. Or I don't like not feeling needed because I don't feel like I have like a purpose in my life then. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because let's be honest, everyone wants to feel wanted and needed and in some sort of capacity. But I think it goes full force whenever maybe you do lose your sense of self, or you don't really know who you are yet, or you don't know who you want to be. All you know is that feeling when someone is like, I need you. You're like, oh yeah, like this makes me feel good. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that definitely does exist. I feel that some people do it out of like necessity though, because they don't have a choice, because they don't have somebody who's a partner. In the true form of the word, mm-hmm. someone who's helping them. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about helping them when you ask them to help you. I'm talking about just innately helping because they're like, okay, this is our household. I'm going to take care of this. If I see so-and-so struggling, let me go ahead and pick up the slack on this part. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not talking about, oh, can you please do this? To me, a true partner is not someone I have to continuously ask to do things for me.
True.
You should already know. It's your household as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I agree. I think that one of the things that I want to come from this conversation is for people to have an honest conversation with their relationship, especially if you feel like you're the person that's kind of doing the things. Ask yourself, the question, am I doing this because I'm controlling? Am I doing this because, to your point, this makes me feel like I have a job, a role? Because then that could be a form of codependency. And then 3, ask your partner to help you out. Mm-hmm. Because if you think about it, like, let's say you're a codependent woman and you're always taking care of the kids. If you come to your man and say, hey, I want you to pick up some of the slack, that'll give space for you to say, now what?
But what if he does it maybe a little bit and then reverts right back?
Well, I mean, that goes into a deeper marital issue. Mm-hmm. That goes into, I feel like you should never feel like it's a job to take care of your kids or take care of your wife or husband. It should never be a job, mm-hmm. right? And so if you're starting to feel that way, what do you do at the end of a job? You quit, mm-hmm. right? You see marriages end right around the time that the kids leave. Mm-hmm. Because you've used me. I've clocked in and out for 18 years. I'm out, mm-hmm. right? And it baffles me when I see that, because I feel like, man, how long has this person felt like they didn't have help?
Well, sometimes also, whenever it gets to that point where the kids are gone and then they split up, it's because they've had these kids as, like, not that they had them initially to distract them, but they've become some sort of life distractions. Yeah. And so if your relationship isn't solid, mm-hmm. it's easy to throw the kids in the mix and be like, I gotta do this for the kids, I gotta do this for the kids, or whatever. Yeah. And then once they're gone, you're looking at each other like, I don't really even know you, or I don't even know if I like you that much. Yeah. And so what do you do with that? And I think that's why a lot of people, they just stay for the kids. Mm-hmm. Either, they're vocal about it, or they keep it to themselves until the kids do leave. Yeah. But I think a lot of it does have to do with a sense of, as a woman, because I can only speak on a woman, if, the roles of a woman, society sometimes puts it, well, not sometimes, society does put it on women to the point where, like, okay, yeah, your role as a mother and you cannot deviate from that at all. Right. So this is your role, no matter what. Guys can clock in and out of parenthood, fatherhood, and everybody's like, whatever. But let it be a mom. Yeah. Then all of a sudden she's a deadbeat. I can't believe it. Blah, blah, blah. So you have a sense that you have to be all in for your kids, and first and foremost, your kids in a lot of relationships. Yeah. And then if you don't, then you're a terrible mom. And it's a lot of pressure. So if you're feeding all this time and energy into your children, then you don't have somebody who's helping you. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, you're just like, damn, I'm doing this on my own. Yeah. You know what I mean? And, well, I'm just going to gravitate towards the people who need me, my children. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so 18 years comes, and now you're like, well, they're gone. My husband really don't need me like that. Or maybe he does, but he's grown. Yeah. What do I do now? You know? And, well, I'm going to leave, and I'm going to go to Jamaica and find me a husband.
On a raft?
On a raft.
Yeah.
Get my groove back.
Yeah. I hate that for some people, because we see it happen all the time. Mm-hmm. The one thing I'll tell the listening community, don't waste your life.
But, there's been times where people who are codependent on other people, they will manipulate you into thinking that you're a bad person because you don't want to spend time with them. You don't want to be all up under. Sometimes I don't want to be all up under you. Yeah. You know what I mean? And codependent people think that that's rejection. Oh, you don't love me then. Mm-hmm. No, it's not that I don't love you, but hell, like, let me breathe a little bit,
Give me something.
Give me some room. Yeah. But again, I think that whenever you do become that codependent person, it's because you don't have boundaries on yourself. Mm-hmm. You don't know who you are really. You don't know what you want. And I think if you are that person, you need to dig deep and figure out what is it, who you are, and what is it that you want out of life and in life. Because that person that you're depending on fulfilling all these things for you, that's a lot of pressure on them. And it's so unfair. And it's selfish, honestly.
Yeah. And it can be coming from a good place, but it is selfish. So are you ready for the spicy margarita question?
Hit me.
All right. I'm going to ask you a question, and then I want you to answer it. And then I'm going to give you an expert's opinion on the question.
Okay.
All right. Is codependency love?
Is it like the definition of love?
Like, let me break it down. Can codependents love?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Obsessively sometimes, but yeah.
So do you think it's love? A form of love?
It can be, but I'm not saying it's a healthy form of love.
Okay. That's a good answer. Because according to the experts, it is a love addiction that can destroy your relationship and destroy you as a person. By becoming aware of the pitfalls of codependency, you've already taken the first step towards a healthy relationship with your partner. So again, it goes back to what I was saying, like from this conversation, we want people to ask first internal questions. Am I codependent? Why am I codependent? And if in fact there is a codependency factor in our relationship, what can my partner do to help me? So I'm not as codependent, or I'm not seeking that codependency from them.
But then again, if you're asking your partner, hey, what can you do for me? That's, again, putting a lot of pressure on them. I feel this is a one-sided thing. You got to figure it out on your own. Do not depend on your partner to give you the answers for that. That's a you problem.
But you can ask your partner, hey, am I codependent?
Absolutely.
So,
But then you can't be like, but can you help me fix it? Well, can you fix it for me?
But if it's the form that the person is doing things to feel needed, then the partner could be like, okay, I'm going to start taking more of the chores so you don't feel like you have to do that in order to fulfill your needed spirit.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Look, I think there are healthy forms of every emotion. I think codependency is some type of emotion. I think there's a healthy form of it, and I think there's an unhealthy form of it. Too much of anything is always when it's unhealthy. Too much of anything.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Yeah.
Well, I like being up under you, and I'm probably not going to stop.
I'm not going anywhere. I mean, you cut my legs off. That's why y'all never see like my ankles, because it's like misery. I don't even have ankles.
I make sure he's always nearby.
I hobble off, but I ain't gonna get far.
Oh, well, I love you.
I love you too.
And we love you guys too.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope that you enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for the next one, because it's going to kind of be, in the same little area, the same spirit.
Yeah.
Yes. So
yeah.
stay tuned.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.